welcome back to the Tall Boy Radio Podcast. It's 2025 and we're still alive, but only just. So, as you may notice, we have a guest with us tonight and we have a host. And the big question for the other host is, what are you doing here, dude? I thought we put you in room 101.
Well, I managed to crawl my way out. Evening all, evening the world. It's great to be here in 2025. And who'd have thought 259 episodes ago, back in 2020 something or other, we'd have still be doing it in 2025. But we're on fine form, fine fettle, and looking forward to what we've got this evening.
Indeed we are. Now, there's no Dave, who has unfortunately had to take a step back from the podcast for the time being, but hopefully he'll be back with us again before the end of the year. Hello, Dave, if you're tuning in and watching. If not, expect a shitty text later. And we are joined by a guest who is indeed related to the previous guest. If you watched the episode on North Korea, dropping the episode as we go. Yeah, we've had Christmas off. We're a bit rusty. We've not recorded for a few weeks, but we're getting back in the saddle. And Stephen has joined us. Did you want to say hello, Stephen, and tell us a little bit about why you're here this time? Because it's different again.
Yeah, hello, everybody. Happy New Year for 2025. I think you haven't sussed it yet, but I'm effectively leaving Easter eggs of my autobiography through your podcast. And my goal is to get 10 episodes, and if you compile those 10 episodes, you'll end up with my autobiography. I think that's probably how it's working out, I feel. So but tonight we're here to talk about the fact that I'm genuinely very grateful to be on your show, and gratitude is something that I've pursued with intent for about 12 years now. And I live a grateful life. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is it doesn't make me one of those toxic, positive people that only ever sees happiness everywhere. Okay, so, and there is a bit of a dark story as to why I got into gratitude. I've actually suffered from depression in the past, and I've suffered from anxiety. But actually, I got some great advice, and I did some research into how actively keeping gratitudes can improve your mental health. So I thought, rather than set some New Year's resolutions, why don't we start by being grateful for the things we've got?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good idea, to be honest with you. So gratitude is something that I'm familiar with myself. I've said a number of times, probably on this podcast, and this, I believe, will be chapter 4 of yourself being on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have said a number of times on here that I'm grateful for the way that my life has turned out so far. I really, question sometimes how I have been quite as fortunate as I have, and I do recognize that. So when you said you wanted to come on here and talk about gratitude, 100% we were up for that. And I think, like you say, you came up with this idea of doing it in the new year instead of doing New Year's resolutions, which I think we've done in the past on different episodes. We thought, you know what, that is a really, really valid way to be starting the new year. It's a fantastic idea, and I should be grateful for you for joining us and giving as much context and content as you have given us, because it's all been fantastic and very, very varied. And we're also grateful for the jars that you sent us as well. So, if you've seen the artwork for the episode, Gaz and I are holding up our gratitude jars here. We will be taking a dip in them later. But first, we'll hear a little bit about this concept of gratitude, and Gaz and I will probably chip in and ask you a question or two as we go.
Okay.
Did you want to tell us then? So you told us there a little bit about that your background. You had a background there where you were suffering with anxiety, suffering with depression. Can you tell us then how gratitude has helped you through that?
Yes. The thing about gratitude and the thing about living an intentionally grateful life is it doesn't stop you having problems. It doesn't stop you having down feelings. But actually, what it does is it allows you to be more resilient when you have the struggles that you are inevitably going to face. And sorry, were you going to ask something?
No.
Okay. So, and the thing about it is, there is a whole lot of research. It's, you know, there's research going back to the late 90s. A guy called Dr. Robert Emmons has done loads of research around the fact that what gratitude actually does is, even in your lowest points, if you can find something to be grateful for, it gives you a reason to carry on. And for me, as somebody who's never going to stop those depressive thoughts, for someone who's never going to stop having some anxiety around situations, I was never going to get to a point where it all went away. So I had to come up with a strategy that was going to allow me to live with it and know I could always get through it. And that's what gratitude has done for me. It's given me that anchor point in my life where I can always find something to be grateful for. And over the years, I've learned various strategies about how to do that, because sometimes you have to dig really deep to find it. But I've learned all sorts of ninja strategies for that, and I'm quite happy to share them as we talk.
Definitely. Gaz, gratitude. I know I imagine you're fairly grateful for the things that you have in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just going back to what you said there about, you know, the New Year's resolution, and lots of people not necessarily sort of, you know, want for things, but lots of people have a tendency to sort of look forward and to look at what they can do and look at what they might have and look at what they're working towards, perhaps instead of just perhaps taking that time and appreciating actually what it is that you have got and what it is that you are currently grateful for having, if that makes sense. So I absolutely get the concept of sort of gratitude, and as I say, you know, there's a number of things in my sort of gratitude jar, some of which you can probably sort of guess as to what they might be. Some you absolutely won't guess, but there's a couple of things in there that, you know, it went into, because my jar sits sort of bedside cabinet, and you know, I still use the pen that you kindly provided with it, so thank you very much. And you know, it just goes in there, and every now and then I'll just drop something in there, and it could be something for that day, it could be something that I've been thinking about for a while, but the whole concept of just being appreciative of the things that you do have, or the things that you value, as opposed to always perhaps looking for something that you haven't quite got yet. I find in a way quite sort of a positive mindset as such, because as you said, Steve, you know, it absolutely can help you out. One question I was just going to ask, sorry, Steve, was you mentioned that sort of in those dark times there was always something that you feel as though you could find that you were grateful for. I'm sort of making an assumption that there would always be things you can always go back to, whether that's sort of family or whatever it may be. But would it always be the new things that you would be looking for? Is it always something new that would have helped you out of that, perhaps that sort of low cycle?
So first ninja trick, I guess. So there is a shelf life on a gratitude. So one of the things that's been proven is there are what we would call deep-rooted gratitude. So they're the things that you would intrinsically always go back to and you wouldn't question. So I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the way that I was brought up. I'm grateful for the community that I live in. These things are deep-rooted gratitudes. And whilst you're aware of them, you become familiar with them. And there's an old saying that familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
So actually, those deep-rooted gratitudes aren't as impactful on creating endorphins when you need them as trying to find something recent to be grateful for. So, yeah. So the trick is you've always got your embedded gratitudes. They're always there, but sometimes they may not be enough. And the trick is you've got to try and hit yourself with something that's relatively new, because that newness, that fact that that's novel and new actually will give you a bigger endorphin hit. So in the dark times, it's really hard to think positively. But I learned this ninja trick, which is absolutely superb. And the trick is you say to yourself, my life would be so much worse without. And then you think of something that's happened in the last 48 or 72 hours. My life would have been so much worse without that brilliant message I got from Beans. My life would have been so much worse without that card that popped through the letterbox from that colleague that said, thank you for helping me out in that work we did.
Yeah.
So there's this ninja black belt trick of, if you can't think of anything positive, I am happy about, I am grateful for, flip it on its head, because your mind's already in a negative mode. So flip it on its head and go, my life would be so much worse if this hadn't happened. My life would be worse if I hadn't experienced this. And really you will give yourself something, usually give yourself a 48-hour window, and then that's a relatively new hit of endorphin that gives you a more recent gratitude to rely on. And it also proves to you that even in bad times, the gratitudes are still happening.
Yeah, I mean, that is a really, really good way of thinking about it. Because I'll be honest with you. So when I've sort of thought about gratitude, I've thought of it in a much more general sense. So, you know, like I say, I'm grateful for how things have turned out for me. It's a very generic, it's a very general statement, but it doesn't make it any less true or any less valid or important to me, because I can look around and I'm grateful for my wife, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for having a roof over my head and a car, touch wood, that's going to pass its MOT tomorrow. We're very grateful for that. It don't cost me too much.
Crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah, very much so. Certainly won't be down to any care or attention I've given it if it does pass. But yeah, certainly very, very grateful for that. But when it came to writing things down and putting them in the jar, being honest, I struggled a little bit finding things that were specific. And I think it was Sherlock Holmes who said that some people aren't necessarily, you know, 100% bright, but they are luminescent and they reflect the light onto people. So many times I'd have a conversation with Kim and say, what should I be grateful for today? What's happening in my life that I should be grateful for in the last day or so? And she'll say, well, there's this. God, yeah, that's really obvious. Yeah. What about that one? You know, when we had a plumber come round and we were having problems with all our water, there's no pressure on any of the taps. And he came round and said, look, try this. And if this doesn't work, then I will take a look at it for you, but I will charge you for it. But if this doesn't, try this first. So I guarantee that's probably what the problem is. And I said, well, let me give you some money for it. No, I don't want any money for it. And I was, I'd never even thought to write that down. But that is something.
I'd be immensely grateful that I'd found an honest plumber.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong. He lives about 3 doors down from me. You know what I mean?
But it's strange because we had and now you mention it, I really wish I'd have put it in my jar, and I didn't. And so Christmas Day we had a little bit of a minor hiccup. There was a little bit of we had a bit of a power cut, and the wife's gone into whirling dervish mode and gone like, oh my God, how am I going to serve food for 10, 11 people Christmas Day if I've got no oven and no this and no that? And anyway, we sort of we narrowed it down to basically a kettle. We thought it was a bit of a dodgy sort of appliance, so we narrowed it down to kettle. But in the meantime, so Beans and my next door neighbour both said, look, if you're really struggling, I'm sure we've got capacity in our ovens. Please come over and you can use ours, and we'll get through it, type thing. And I never even thought, I mean, obviously I was massively appreciative and grateful for the offer, but just never even thought that actually that's something that is like really genuine, and I genuinely could have put that in the gratitude jar, and I never did. And similarly, there's a lad in our estate called Jay who offered, and he said, look, if you can't narrow it down and genuinely you've got an issue with your electrics, I'll come over and I'll have a look. And even thought, and I'm really mad with myself now for not doing that, because that's something that I actually think, Jesus, that guy was, and I've known him for a few years, but he was prepared on Christmas Day to come over to my house and basically see if there's anything that he could do to help us with ensuring that Christmas Day was fine, and so on and so on and so on. And now you've said that, I'm like, I'm mad at myself for not putting in, because I was like massively appreciative of that. Do you know what I mean?
And the thing,
yeah, this whole new thing, is it? Yeah.
And that's the thing, you see, and the reason that the jar. So I suppose I should cover why we're talking about jars, not gratitude journals, because a lot of people come to gratitude through journaling, and I've tried it all. So I started with a journal, But again, I'm the sort of person who does lots of research. You know that from, if you want to listen to the podcast about simulation theory, you'll know that if I get involved in a topic, I research it, I go deep. So when I started to keep a gratitude journal, I started to want to know how to get the best out of it, how to get the most out of it. And a piece of research I came across said that if you can capture a gratitude as near to you feeling the feeling as possible, you almost like capture the magic of it on the page. So write it down write it down when you're actually feeling it and expressing it, because then you'll give the best expression of the gratitude. And then when you use it later and review it, you'll get that feeling back. So, because we do that a lot, we make notes sometimes, not because we want to read keep the note, but actually want to keep the feeling of what was happening when we wrote the note. So one of the tips I got was, write it down as soon as you can to the event that you're grateful for. The problem with that was, as I was keeping this journal, it was getting more and more full of things that I was grateful for, and therefore it's having more emotional value for me. And that stopped me taking it out with me in case I lost it.
Right.
So then it ended up locked in a drawer, and I'd have to remember to go and open the drawer and get it out. And so I thought, okay, what can I do with this? I know I'll use a gratitude app on my phone. And, because I've got a tech background, I did a bit of research and saw there were loads of gratitude apps. But the problem with that is people think you're incredibly rude. If you're with people and experiencing something really nice, to actually get your phone out and start typing on it, all of a sudden people think you're the dickhead on the phone.
Yeah.
So I carried on looking around, and I saw a story from an American, it was American junior school, whatever the equivalent of junior school is, and they had a bucket at the top in their class where kids could, if they experienced feeling grateful for another member of the class, they could write a ticket of gratitude, and then at the end of the week the bucket got opened, got emptied, and they talked about all the things that they were grateful for that other people in the class had done for them. And that gave me this moment of sort of inspiration, if you want. And I literally went and got an old coffee jar and bodged a hole in it, and that was gratitude jar 1.0. And I just got loads of little bits of paper, and because my thinking was, well, if I keep it out, then as it fills up, that's going to act as a really visual reminder of the fact that my life isn't so bad, is it? Because as that fills up, you can see that, gee, you've got lots to be grateful for. Literally, the metaphor of having lots to be grateful for becomes physical. Yeah. And then the other thing was that by putting the hole in the top of the lid, it meant I could take little slips of paper with me wherever I was. And if you're in a crowd of people and someone's you're having a good time, people don't think anything if you just say, oh, this is absolutely brilliant. It's just reminded me something. I need to make a note. And people are much more accepting of you taking out a little pencil and a piece of paper and making a quick note of something than they are you getting your phone out and starting to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my wallet, I actually carry these little notebook books. And then I can just get that out. I've got a little pencil, and I can just make a little note. And then when I get home, so I'm recording the gratitude as close to experiencing as I can. And then when I get home, it goes in the jar. I keep the jar on display. I work from home a lot, and I keep the jar on display so that when I have a bad few minutes, I've got that in view. And I know I've got things to be grateful for in my life. And that stops a bad few minutes becoming a bad morning, and it stops a bad morning becoming a bad day.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea that you've got a physical representation of the gratitude as well, that you can physically see. This is all the things I have to be grateful for. Certainly, I know when you Google it online, you look into this sort of thing, the first thing you see is a journal. And I did wonder to myself, actually, why you hadn't done a journal, but you've just answered that for us there, which is, I guess it makes sense. I mean, I didn't really tell too many people about it, but I really was, I was a diary keeper from 1986 all the way through till about 2000. I kept a diary. And then the thought of taking those with them, or with me, the idea of losing them and losing those things that are personal to me. And again, a lot of those things, are the stuff in there that is personal to me. There's stuff in there that I'm grateful for, stuff in there that I share when I've had a shitty day and I'm pissed off and I just wanted to vent. But they became incredibly valuable to me that I didn't want to lose them. And like I say, some of the things, you were very kind to send us a jar. It's like I say, I know, in all fairness, Dave has his jar sat on his desk at home. He showed us whenever we spoke about doing this episode. David showed his jar with the paper in the bottom of it, where he's been grateful. Like you say, he sent out the pen and the paper, and I put the paper in my backpack when we went on holiday, and I wrote some things on there that when we draw them out, maybe they'll come out in the lucky dip, maybe they won't, who knows. Maybe I won't want to share them because I probably will have had a whiskey or two when I wrote them. And the other thing that you sent us as well, if you want to hold those up to the camera, is there's a list of rules and how to use the jar and everything. Did you want to talk us through that and the work that went into those?
Yeah, so it's basically that is a sort of on a small leaflet is a starter for 10 on how to start keeping gratitude. It's based on some of the tips that I picked up along the way. The whole jar itself is a concept. I originally created the jars, so I went looking for a jar that would work, and the lids on them are money box lids. So it's basically these sort of jars, these sorts of Kilner jars, pickling jars, are really popular in America because you got the whole prepper thing happening. So this holds, a litre of fluid, and they've normally got an airtight lid. But I found one place that did money box lids for them, so I bought 1,000 of those. I bought 1,000 jars, and the other thing is that I got a place that found me brilliant stickers that are see-through, so you can put a sticker on that says "My Gratitude Jar" or "Our Gratitude Jar," and I literally got a big pile of them because I thought they'd make great client gifts when I was dealing with clients. So we started giving them out to clients and saying thank you for working with us. And then I had some clients come back to me and go, we don't want to send people a bottle of wine, and we don't want to send them, a box of chocolates or whatever. Do you sell these? And I hadn't really thought about that. And so we sort of said, yeah, we can sell you some. And that sort of created this little cottage industry. We don't promote it. We don't advertise it. And in fact, what we do is we'll pick a charity, and for a quarter's worth of sales, we'll then donate the proceeds to the charity, because we've got to do something to get rid of the 1,000 jars I bought.
Fair play. Did you want to share those charities as well with us? Because actually, they were really good charities that you were talking about.
Yeah, so charity. We've supported all sorts of charities in the past, but there's a couple that if we go back to, if we get a sale in, and it's people have bought everything from 10 to 200. So if we get a sale in and we're not currently got a charity, there's a couple of charities that we do work with anyway, on and off. So one of them is a charity in Manchester called Coffee for Craig, which works with rough sleepers. They're a fantastic charity. When I did my TED talk, they were the subject of that TED talk. So and the fact that we did the first street store for homeless people in the UK, in Manchester. So they're one charity that we've done work with previously. And then the other one is a local animal charity called Airworth Dogs in Need, who are they're a local charity in and around the BD postcode areas, and they effectively have a non-euthanasia policy and take in dogs into the area and pay to have them. In fact, they've got about a dozen dogs that are on permanent foster, where they actually pay the foster carers to vet bills and medication bills, and that's not a cheap thing to do. No. So we've got a couple of charities that we can give proceeds to when we sell jars, and then we've done other sporadic pieces of work with other charities who've come along. So we had one client bought 50 jars and said, I want the jars to give to clients, but can we donate it? We're currently supporting a charity, so can we donate the money to the charity that we're supporting? And we said, yeah, of course, not a problem at all.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. So one thing I will share is, so I showed you my jar earlier. I've shook it up, and it now looks like there's an awful lot less in it. But also, I should add, it also looks like when we come out, it looks entirely impossible, but it's covered up everything.
Oh, I can see, yeah.
So yeah, I channel my inner Dynamo there, or whatever he's calling himself this week. So I know he doesn't call himself Dynamo anymore.
Yeah, Steve. Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dynamo.
Yeah, he's Dynamo. The artist formerly known as Dynamo. That's what we'll call him. Yeah. So, did you want to share some of your other ninja tricks, as you call them?
Yeah, so there's a good one which is have you heard of the 5 whys technique? So basically what you do is when you say so just give me an example. It doesn't have to be a real one, but just throw me something that you might be grateful for.
My neighbour.
You're great. Why?
Because he's a top lad.
Why?
Because for years he's been there for me, and he's been support that I needed through various things that have happened in my life.
Why has he done that?
Because he's a top man. I hope.
Colin, you're on about.
Why do you feel grateful for that?
Because he was there when, you know, I've obviously known him for a while, and he was there when I needed somebody there to talk to, and he was there for me, and he listened, and he, you know, and I'm always appreciative of that.
Why does that stand out for you compared to other people that you meet?
I think just because he showed that he cared, and he took the time to sort of go out of his way just to make sure that I was okay.
So what you've now done is, using 5 whys, you've connected a top line statement, I'm grateful for my neighbour, with a deep rooted heart-based feeling of gratitude.
Shit, that works as well, dude.
Yeah, I tell you, I nearly got a bit emotional. I'm not gonna lie. I cry easy, so I'll do my best. I'll keep it together. But no, that was really nice to hear as well. So cheers, youth.
But that's 5 whys technique. So it's interesting because I know people who will write down, I'm grateful for my car. And actually, lots of research says that around 68% of gratitudes are normally about associations with people, not objects. But actually, if you use the 5 why technique on people who say, I'm grateful for my car, they usually get down to the bottom of, I'm grateful for the fact that I've had opportunities to work hard and earn a good living. And so what they're actually grateful for is the opportunities they've had in life.
Yeah.
The car may be the current manifestation of that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say that's like almost the end product of all the things that they've been able, so the opportunities that they've had along the way. So they're grateful for the opportunities because it's afforded them the opportunity to be able to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, and that 5 whys technique, if you've got something that looks really shallow, do the 5 whys technique, and you will absolutely get to the depth of what really makes that something to be grateful for in your life.
No, I like that, and I haven't heard. I suppose, you know, you go back to the typical. You know, I work in education, so we get kids who will say, "But why?" And then you explain, say, "But why?" And then you say, like, "Well, why?" And you're thinking, Christ, okay. And it really makes you think about whatever it is that you're trying to explain to them. And then you think they can't go anywhere else. And they go, but why? And you're like, oh, just shut up. You know? I mean, and I'm joking. We don't do that, obviously. But, you know, but it really does make you.
There's a big difference between what you think and what you say sometimes, isn't there? So another ninja technique. Well, what we'll do is we'll start with we'll bust a myth around gratitude. Okay, so there are myths around gratitude, and one of the myths around gratitude is if you live a grateful life, you stop being ambitious. Because if you're grateful for everything you've got, you don't need to go and look for other things.
Okay,
does that make sense? It's a sort of bit of a myth that grateful people aren't ambitious is one of the sort of great myths out there. And actually, there's research that's been done. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who did the research, actually, but there was research done in the early 2000s, and it was Edward Decky and Richard Ryan, I think it was Decky and Ryan. They did some work into something called self-determination theory. And self-determination theory is this idea that you control the outcomes of your life. You decide the script, you decide how things are going to pan out for you, and you actively work towards it. One of the things that they proved is that self-determination theory has got 2 types of motivation. It's got intrinsic motivation, it's got extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation is where it comes from inside. Extrinsic motivation is where something external helps to motivate you, but it often doesn't last. You might have heard it called hot bath motivation. So hot bath motivation is where you go and see a brilliant motivational speaker, you come out all rah-rah, and you're going to make changes. This is back to the new year, new me thing, the sort of New Year's resolution thing. So you know, everyone's geeing you up to make this massive change, and 2 weeks later you're in KFC having a bargain bucket. And that's because the external motivation doesn't last, and it's like a hot bath, it goes cold.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got an intrinsic motivator, then that helps to keep the engine fired for achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. If you are grateful for things you've already achieved, they are intrinsic motivators. So by being grateful for the things you've achieved, by being grateful for the things that you've got in life, if you're grateful for the people you've got around you and you really love them, you want them to experience the best in life with you.
Yeah.
That's an intrinsic motivator. That motivates you to get out of bed and do more. So actually, it's the opposite of the myth. And that's the intrinsic motivation is the strongest form of gratitude.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that, to be honest with you. And as someone who did say, as you know, harping back to New Year's resolutions, that I want to lose a little bit of weight this year. And my wife is encouraging me. She's on a diet as well because we've overconsumed at Christmas like everybody does. But nobody overconsumes quite like me, I have to say. I am the king of overconsumption. And I do want to lose a bit of weight. You know, I've worked in retail for years, 2 years now, sitting at an office desk. I notice the difference now that I can't quite get away with that extra bag of crisps or that extra bottle of whiskey at Christmas time. And I do want to lose a little bit of weight. And my wife harping on at me, I said to her today, like when she caught me nicking a mince pie out of the cupboard, she said, you know, I thought you were on a diet. I says, I am, but there's a rebellious streak in me. And when you're telling me that I can't eat that mince pie, there's a little bit of me that goes, I tell you what, I'm going to go and eat that mince pie and that'll teach you.
Yeah, but again, you know, going back to, I suppose, in a way what Steve said is that if it's other people telling you that you should be doing things,
exactly,
that's not necessarily as powerful as that inbuilt intrinsic wish or desire for you to do it for yourself. Now, for you to do it for yourself, then makes you know, wife and kids and everything else a better environment because you've done it. You feel better. You feel happier. I'm not saying you are grouchy, but you're not as grouchy or whatever it may be. You are grouchy sometimes. Well, you know, but to do it because you want to do it. And that, I suppose that internal intrinsic one, as opposed to because somebody else is telling you to do it, does that make a difference? You want to do it for yourself, and it's your own motivation to do it, as opposed to somebody else, maybe.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Beans, do you mind me picking up on that one about the diet? And let's actually approach that from a gratitude perspective.
Yeah, no worries.
So you could do this as a 5-day gratitude challenge. Basically, to day one, if I were doing this, I would start. My first gratitude on day one would be, I'm grateful that up to now I've been able to eat whatever I want and get away with it. I'm grateful that up to now I've been able to eat whatever I want and get away with it. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I still have an opportunity to improve my health. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that as well as having the opportunity to improve my health, I've got opportunities around me. I've got facilities around me that will allow me to do that. I'm grateful that I've got people supporting me who really want to do that. And I'm grateful that if I do this, I'll be able to have extra time living an active life with those people. Now, isn't that better than a load of you should do this because?
100%, yeah. I think if I think of it that way, and although I nodded vociferously there while I've got a sour beer in my hand, which is no doubt full of sugar and no good for me whatsoever. But yes, I totally agree with everything you said. That is a much better way of looking at it. You know, I want, I'm 51 years old, and my kids are nearly 8 and 5, and I am very much looking forward to spending as much time with them as I can when I'm not at work, obviously. And although I have worked from home the last couple of days with the snow, it has to be. And that's a really good way of looking at it. And it's interesting. It's interesting actually how you could look at, like, I'm grateful for that wonderful Christmas dinner, absolutely fantastic. However, that's one thing. I can then use that gratitude in a different way and actually use it to benefit me, as rather than something I'm grateful for that's happened, I can use the stuff like that and those thoughts and channel those inner thoughts for something that then projects into the future. So yeah, that's a really, really useful way of looking at things.
And again, if you did the 5 whys on the Christmas dinner, we'd probably go down the route of, well, I'm grateful that we could afford to have that sort of meal when there are lots of people who can't. I'm grateful that my family was around me and we could enjoy that. So even though you've got the material thing of the food, what you'll ultimately get to by using gratitude is you'll get to what the food represents for you. And once you've actually formed that link in your brain, you can start to find that you don't need the food anymore, because you understand what it is that you're getting from it. And then once you know what you're getting from it at a truly deep level, at a deep gratitude level, you'll find there are lots of other ways that you'll actually get those dopamine hits. And and I'm not perfect at this by any means, but I am someone who's done it for 15 years. So I guess I know quite a lot of the shortcuts.
I tell you what, Steve, in your 16th year, you need to put some time into writing that book. Because I'm telling you, dude, don't get me wrong, we're grateful for the free content that you give us. But you can make a killing off this stuff, dude.
Yeah, and it's incredible. Just in particular, I mean, obviously, your prior sort of podcasts and stuff have been on different topics, but this in particular thing resonates quite strongly with what I perceive to be currently as a wish to better yourself, to be fitter, to live healthier, to live longer, to etc., etc., etc. And there's a definite shift towards an appreciation of a healthy lifestyle, the way and so on, and the things that then affords you to do. So if you live a healthy lifestyle, you're going to be fitter, healthier, probably live a longer life, which then means that you can live that longer life with the people that you care about, etc., etc., etc. So I'm with Adam. Please write the book. I'm happy to write the foreword if you want me to. That's absolutely fine. As long as we get a credit in the back somewhere at Turbo Radio, that's absolutely fine as well. We set you on your path to superstardom. But no, I mean, we joke, but I mean, I think Adam. I mean, I think he's sort of hit. He's hit a bit of a nerve there, because I think there are lots and lots and lots of people out there that this would absolutely resonate with, and just you talking there about the appreciation and the gratitude of that Christmas meal. When you drill down to it, I suppose it's not actually the physical meal, it's the time spent with family, the time enjoying their time, the time that you see them enjoying themselves, the time that they enjoy in your own company and you enjoy in their company. And when you drill down to that, you then think, and obviously not for Christmas maybe, but you then think, actually the Christmas meal is irrelevant to what actually makes me thankful and grateful, because it's the time that I get to spend with X, Y, or Z. So the food almost becomes I suppose a bit like your previous sort of argument with Par. It almost becomes a byproduct of the things that are actually making you grateful, if that makes sense. So write the book, Steve, because I think there'd be a lot of people that would absolutely buy into that.
So, well, actually, I think there probably is a book, but I think me being me, I think I've probably got a slightly bigger ambition. So shall I share with you what my ambition is?
Please do. Yes.
So in 1965, a group of people got together and called themselves the Gratitude Society. And they had a chat, and they decided that they were going to create International Gratitude Day. And it took them about a year to get their act together. So they launched International Gratitude Day in 1966 in Hawaii. And it happened on the 21st of September 1966, which means on the 21st of September 2026, International Gratitude Day will be 60 years old. So I've been thinking about, on the 21st of September 2025, I'm starting to put together a plan to launch a website because I want to collect 1 million gratitudes from people around the world.
Wow.
Cool.
And then on the 21st of September, 29 speaker at the Gratitude Day Memorial Awards, and you're going to be there, and you can celebrate all of those 1 million gratitudes that you've collected.
Well, there's a couple of things. I want to do some research off the back of it and just top up some of the research that was done at the start of the 2000s around what people are grateful for. So there's an opportunity there to do some proper deep dive research with 1 million gratitudes as to what people are grateful for in the modern world. There's also the opportunity to start lobbying the United Nations, because whilst it's an internationally recognized day, the people who own celebration days, are the United Nations. And
okay.
So International Gratitude Day is not currently recognized as a United Nations official day. On the 21st of September every year, the United Nations official day is World Peace Day.
Right.
But the United Nations have in the past, where they believe that days are complementary with each other, have allowed there to be more than one official United Nations day happening on the same date.
Right.
And I can't think of anything that would be better in the current climate, in the current world that we have, if we couldn't get the United Nations to have World Gratitude Day and World Peace Day on the same day.
Makes sense. I'm not going to lie, when he first pitched it, I was thinking Tallboy Radio 2026 live from Hawaii. I'd have been down for it. Wife might have killed me a little bit, but that's okay. But no, listen, anything you want, any contributions you want from us, any help you want from us, you know, we'd be happy to help. Generally, we hinder situations, but we would be happy to help. Anything you want.
It literally is. It's the start of a plan, and it's sort of hatched over the Christmas break. And yeah, so but it just so happens that you know, things have aligned in that to get some sort of movement going and to get 1 million gratitudes. I need to start now to get everything ready to launch and do the pre-launch, so that in September 2025 it can launch, and then there's a year to get 1 million gratitudes.
Yeah.
Before the 60th birthday of World Gratitude Day. So,
I mean, as a concept, it's phenomenal. It's an amazing thing to plan, to prep for, and just, you know, something as Adam just said there, you know, if it's a case of you just want to spitball some ideas, or you just want to literally, you know, just drop us a message, drop us a text, drop us an email, just, you know, we'll be happy to sort of, I don't know, critique or support or whatever it is that you might want. But it's an amazing goal, and it would be amazing to see those 1 million gratitudes for, you know, for whatever it was, being categorized into different categories, and then being able to sort of wrap it up and say, you know, in 2025, 2026, these are the things that people on planet Earth are grateful for. And what an amazing concept to build, I suppose.
Well, if nothing else, one of the things I suspect is it doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, being grateful for deep human relationships will probably be one of the top things around the world. And you know, I'm into showing the fact that as people, we aren't all that different around the world.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
So it'd be interesting to see if the research backs up my theories.
I suspect it will. I do suspect it will, but you know, I'll be interested to see the stories behind it. I just had a quick look out. I forgot what the number was now. I think it was about 2,800 a day. So that's the size of the prize. It's quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with the power of social media, you never know what could happen, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. And all it takes is, and you know, we've been saying this on Tallboy Radio for the 4 and a bit years, however long it is we've been doing it. All it takes is that one person, that one, I say celebrity, whoever it may be, you know, that one blow up episode or that one blow up comment, and then all of a sudden, Christ, you know, sky's the limit sort of thing, you know. And if I'm not suggesting, but you know, you think of who are the super mega stars at the moment, I suppose, the music industry, Taylor Swift, and then you look at, you know, whether it's, you know,
Oh, you never know. One day I may be as influential as Hock to a girl. But there you go.
Something to aspire to.
But you know, we joke, but you know, there's been lots and lots and lots of occasions in history where, you know, I say famous people and stuff, or even semi-famous people have sort of they've got behind a movement, or they've got behind popularity, and before you know it, look where you are, sort of thing. So I absolutely think, yeah. I mean, you said there it's a concept, it's a thought. I would go for it. See what, and look, you know, the famous comment is, you know, you sort of reach the stars, and if you don't make the stars, you'll hit the moon or whatever. So if you go for 1 million and you don't quite get 1 million and you get 900,000, Christ, that's still 900,000 gratitudes that you've got to go off. You know what I mean? So.
Well, it'll still be the biggest global piece of research into gratitude that's ever happened. So,
hey, there you go then.
That sounds like chapter.
So should we go from the massive macro level down to the micro level, and just, you know, should we have a look at what we're grateful for?
Go on, let's see what this one is that stuck to the top of it, shall we?
I want to get one out that's a bit like, not necessarily one of those like generic ones. Oh, okay, that's a generic one. So I might bin that off. But no, I mean, I the first one that I've literally pulled out, and as I said it right at the start, I pulled that and I just write words that then mean something to me, relate to me. So I just wrote job, and I suppose for that it's the opportunities that my career, my job have enabled me. You know, I've just passed my NPQ8, so my headship. So you know, I'm grateful for the opportunities that the organisation have allowed me in terms of being able to go through that qualification, and now, you know, I'm a qualified head teacher. And the opportunities that therefore is then going to present in front of me, and I love my job, and you know, and I went through a phase where I loved my job, and I would wake up in the morning and I didn't have any hesitation going to work, and I loved it. And then you go to a phase where actually it's not quite so good, and not you resent going, but it's not what it used to be. Whereas I'm now in a place where I genuinely really enjoy my job again, and I'm really grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the environment that I now work in, and that was just reminding me of that. So as you can see there, guys, I just wrote sort of job, and that was one of the things I'm grateful for.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think one of the comments I make in the leaflet is, I do this once a year. I do it round about now. I tip everything out. I get a nice bottle of wine or a nice glass of whiskey, and I read through my gratitudes over the course of an evening. And it's a bit like having an Oscar ceremony where you win all the Oscars.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it does. So I've got one here, real simple. 5th of February 2024. Had a really productive day at work today. Felt like I was connecting with people and making a real contribution. Feel grateful to be in a service industry and in a place where I can still be viable at 57.
Cool.
Yeah.
It surprises me. You're 57, Stephen. So
I didn't expect that.
You can add grateful for your youthful looks to that. To
there you go. Oh, it's all the filters. Don't worry. You've only ever seen me on video.
That's true. That is true. But 2026 will be the year when we do finally meet up and we'll do something for the graduates.
Absolutely. In Hawaii.
In Hawaii.
Absolutely.
Or even Pendle Hill. I'm comfortable with either.
Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out talking about gratitude, we can talk about we could
simulation theory. Or...
I was literally about to say simulation theory, yeah, but when
that one beer. That one hurt.
So all people that know, I won't go down that route.
This is the one then. This is the one that was stuck to the top of my jar, interestingly. It's not, I don't think it was necessarily that meaningful, but nonetheless, it was something I was grateful for. So 30th of November 2024, I was grateful to my brother-in-law Neil for taking me to the Chelsea versus Spurs under-18s game. So for those of you who don't know, he's a coach with England, and while we were down in Windsor having a family holiday, he said, "Did I fancy going along to watch this game of football?" And I did, and And then we went out on the beer afterwards and got ourselves in a spot of bother with our prospective partners. But I was less grateful for that. I was grateful for the beers. We had a great talk. But not only that, while I was down there, a couple of things happened while I was at that game. Number one, I checked my phone for the first time in a couple of days and found I had a couple of missed messages off your wife. Wanted to swap a few episodes around, Stephen. So yeah, I apologise for not getting back to sooner, but I did. And then the other thing, one of the guys who played for Spurs, and I'm not a Spurs fan by any stretch of the imagination, as many people will know, is a young lad by the name of, I think it's Eli Upson.
Yeah.
And his dad is Matty Upson,
Yeah.
who played for the Arsenal, who was there at the game. And they introduced me to him. I had a great conversation at half time with Matty Upson about the Arsenal, where he thought we were going, what we were going to achieve. And if he's looking at the score tonight, where we're losing 2-0 to Newcastle, he didn't mention any of that. But yeah, that for me, it was fabulous. You know, it was a great day out. We got back, we dropped the cars off, and didn't bother texting our wife to say we were back in Windsor, and went out on the beer instead, and had a fantastic day. Had a lovely meal with him while they kept the peace with the mother-in-law present, and then we took a few digs in the ribs later. But it was a cracking day out and well worth it.
So there you go. And you can also be grateful that you survived having the extra beers and survived the encounter with the missus afterwards. So
I am grateful for that. Yeah. Relatively unscathed.
So just to prove that I'm not immune to having the blues and feeling down, yeah. 3rd of August 24. I've had a tough couple of days, but I am so much more grateful that my life would be worse without this scabby, scruffy lurcher called Penny. She's demanding, she smells, and her bark goes right through me. But I'm looking at her now, and I see the trust and love she has for us, and my heart is melting. She's a pain in the arse, but she's my pain, and I love her so much. How can I not be grateful that she is in my life?
That's lovely.
Amazing.
That's lovely. Yeah, as someone who's grown up with dogs and loves dogs, so I don't have a dog right now. We've talked about it, but probably I don't see it happening if I'm really honest. But yeah, I can relate to that, but I don't think I could ever put it so beautifully and succinctly. That's really.
But that was me having to use a ninja black belt technique to find something to be grateful for, because I'd had a tough couple of days, and she was sitting there, and she was a source of gratitude to me.
Yeah, amazing, and again, how you wrap that up in the words that you said was yeah, incredible. I mean, my next one is nowhere near as wax lyrical as that. I've just put a good night's sleep, only because.
Oh yeah.
Only because sort of over Christmas, my wife and my two kids have sort of had the dreaded lurgy and stuff. So the soundtrack to my Christmas has been hacking coughs and sniffling and snoring and this, that, and the other. And actually, for once, it's not me snoring through too much beer. It's actually people snoring through being ill. So and this was sort of must have been sort of 2 or 3 nights ago, I think, where finally actually so my wife and particularly started to feel a lot better. So I was really, really grateful for actually, a proper night's sleep. So if you are listening, I apologise profusely, my darling wife, and I love you forever.
Having 2 young children, I will be eternally grateful for a good night's sleep. Yeah. I haven't had one for 8 years. Bless them, though. So here we go. 6th of October, 2024. Gary, you will love this one. I'm grateful to Morrissey for providing the soundtrack of my life. Now, I don't know where that came from. That might be one of those occasions, Stephen, where, you'd had that experience with your dog. Maybe I'd had a bad day at work. Maybe that had just, something was ticking me off. But I always find, if I stick Morrissey on, and I know he gets a little bit of stick, mainly off Gaz, for being morbid and morose and not particularly chipper, but I've never found that. I've found his lyrics witty, insightful, and humorous, and I love listening to him because I can relate my life to the things that he says. Now, he's not writing about my life, and I haven't had the same experiences that he's had. Some would say that's probably a good thing, but I can relate to them. His words are poetry, and I find them incredibly comforting. And I've listened to him for many, many years. And sometimes the songs I listen to, like Rubber Ring and stuff like that, which is about, relating to, so he's got a bit of an ego, and it's a little bit about how he wants to be remembered and how important his music is to other people. And it is to me. And it takes me back to different places where maybe the first time I heard that song, or a poignant time where I was listening to it, or, I was probably, I started listening to Morrissey only 20 odd years ago. We've been around a lot longer than that. But, I then went through a divorce afterwards, and it was that music that got me through that. And Gaz as well. I'm not going to get emotional here, but, I feel only fair to say, he's been here for me in some of the difficult spells in my life as well, and some of the more challenging spells in my life. And I've leaned on Gaz and I've leaned on Morrissey. so you
are in the same bracket. Morrissey now.
You're in the bracket.
Oh, right, okay.
That's a compliment. That's
a compliment and a half in it. That.
But I have done, and he, he still is a crutch to my life. And funny enough, I was and this came from a day we were talking at work and about something that somebody else was going through. So obviously I wouldn't share that. And I said to one of the women there, and again, this is what made me grateful for my life, that I am eternally grateful because the vast majority of problems in my life have been of my own creation. And I am incredibly grateful for that I create my own problem myself.
Yeah.
But I should be really, really grateful that that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that cheers, I obviously, I appreciate that and feeling mutual and all that. But I think it's one of those things where you're sort of grateful because of whether it's the environment or the circumstance that you find yourself in, and you think, if I was born somewhere else, or I was living in a different place, or I was doing something else, my life wouldn't be as full or as enriched or as amazing as it is. And I suppose we're grateful for where we are, where we were born, where we live, as opposed to, there are some areas where you think, I wouldn't be as grateful. I wouldn't have as many opportunities and stuff. So, I think, a lot of the issues a lot of the things that shitty times in my life are because of decisions I've made, and I suppose, as I say, in a way, you're grateful for the fact that you have an opportunity to put them right and to deal with them and to move forward and look beyond them. So, I take your point. It's a valid point, dude.
Do you guys believe in serendipity? Do you believe in fortuitous happenings?
Listen, if your wife was here, she would tell us that they aren't serendipitous. You are putting those thoughts out into the universe, and that's what's happening. So tell Lindsay I said that.
Okay, so I don't know if you. So I've got about, because I'm an avid gratitude keeper, I've got about 200 gratitudes in my jar from 2024. And I literally have just been plonking my hand in. There's a couple I couldn't mention where it mentions very personal things about my relationship with Lindsay. So I do want to go on record, Lindsay. Although I read one about really loving Penny, there are lots in here about you that I just can't share. But actually, I literally dipped my hand into the middle of this lot, and I've just pulled this one out. 6th of August, 2024. Appeared on the Tall Boy Radio podcast with Lindsay, talking about living an agile life. They are great hosts, and it was a really lovely experience. I'm so grateful that I get to experience things like this, and I'm so grateful that we have them in our lives.
Oh, that's really nice.
Oh, dude. Oh, I got it to me. I know.
I've just plucked that out of a couple of hundred gratitudes.
Wow.
There you go. That is the definition of serendipity. And I should also share as well, for those of us, and I think we all love our wives here. That was my wife's birthday that night.
Another reason to be grateful that you're alive today.
But it's incredible because, again, I feel as though I should have written it in the jar and I haven't. But I say it a lot of times when we have guests on our podcast and people say, like, why'd you do the podcast and why'd you keep doing it? And, you're not going to get famous. And I don't do it for those reasons. I do it because I'm grateful and I'm thankful for the people that I have an opportunity to meet, to talk to bounce ideas off, to think about, the politics of North Korea, or the Pendle Hill Witches, or a gratitude jar, or talking about a cam girl and how the fact that she gets paid to go on holidays and walk through a sea showing her feet, and this guy pays her thousands of pounds, and you're like, my life is enriched because I get all of these opportunities. I mean, we Vic, for example, an ex-NYPD guy, police officer who's now living in lives down in Florida and stuff, and he's an amazing guy and gives us so many stories about his life. And without the podcast, I would never ever have come across these guys. Tiddy and Shine are almost the inspiration for the start of the podcast. Big shout out Tiddy and Shiner, and always thinking of you guys. Todd and the Toddcast and loads of people, the pub time guys. And I could literally, Steve, go on and on and on and on. And these are people who I now communicate with via social media and this, that, and the other. And I really and I haven't. And I think if there's one thing from this episode, I think it's made me appreciate that actually there are way more things that I'm thankful for and I'm grateful for than actually I realize, if that makes sense. And actually it's really going to make me think about when something does happen, actually, you know what, I am going to put it in the jar because I am grateful for that. And there's way more things. And I just want to put it on record, the podcast and Turbo Radio has been amazing. And every Tuesday I genuinely love coming in and chatting to guests and don't get me wrong, the episodes when it's myself and Ad, or with Dave or with Andy, those episodes are great, but meeting new people and talking about new things and experiencing different attitudes and opinions is amazing.
100%. And like life is about connection and the connections you made with people. So, to put it into context as to how we now find ourselves sat here talking with yourself. And actually the first thing that I put in my jar was that I was grateful for yourself, like say, for providing the content, just for meeting you and just talking to you, because you're an all-round good guy and a very interesting, very well-informed individual as well, who's got a lot of interesting and intelligent things to say, which is the exact opposite of me and Gaz. So I was incredibly grateful for meeting you that way. But the way it came about was my mum is Welsh. When she left Wales, before she came into this area, she went and lived in the Pendle Hill area, in Clitheroe. I nearly pronounced it. My brother pronounced it then. No, I won't do that on the podcast. And, I wanted to do an episode about the Pendle Witches. So I found a Facebook group, Pendle Witches, stuck a post on there. Somebody replied, and they said they're coming. So I invited them to come on. Then somebody else replied and said, look, if you want to speak to anybody, the person you want to speak to is Lindsay Cotton. She has this group called Pendle Core on Instagram. If you're going to do an episode, you cannot do it without this person. So I said, you know what, fair enough. We've already organized a guest. I messaged them, look, is it all right if I ask somebody else to come on? They were fine with it. As it was, they ended up pulling out anyway. And, I messaged Lindsay and she came on. And then when she was on, she sort of mentioned your good self and that episode, which I hark back to. About living in a simulation that still haunts me to this day.
You still mention that a lot, dude.
Yeah.
Steve, I can't tell you how much of an influence that episode has had on Adam's life, because he talks about it all the time.
That made me think way harder than I wanted to. And I'm still thinking about it a lot harder than I wanted to.
Well, in episode 259, you mentioned it again. So, okay, yeah, but no, I genuinely think that, I've just said it, that there's way more things that, and look, I appreciate that, so almost coming full circle and going back to where we started, Steve, just in terms of this was born out of, your particular struggles with anxiety and depression. But what it showed me is that actually, if you genuinely think about what you have, there are many, many, many things that you can be grateful for that then can resonate within your life that maybe without looking, you might not necessarily have appreciated if that was the case.
100%.
Yeah.
But I am genuinely grateful for this connection that we've had, and I'm 100% serious when I say any help you want with us towards your your plan for Gratitude Day 2026, September the 21st, just shout up, and we will be involved as much as you want us to be.
Thank you so much. And it's going to take a small army to get the word out there. So, you know, and if I'm going to, I particularly, you know, I want to do what I want to do is I want to do something that on the 21st of September 2026, I actually want to say I'm grateful I've done that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a situation where I'm surrounded by people I don't like and it's just a commercial thing that's been done. I want to do this from a genuine place of, you know, gratitude has changed and, well, in certain ways, it's kept me alive. So on the 21st of September 2026, I want the people around me to be people that I'm grateful for having in my life.
Yeah.
And, you know, and actually, I think I would love to come back and give you some updates as the journey progresses.
Anytime.
And if you do me the honor of having me on.
That goes without saying. And you know, us guys here, you know, we're more than happy to get behind, you know, sort of a passionate concept and one that we can buy into. And as Adam said, you know, if there is anything that we can do, even if it's just about spreading the word, let us know as soon as you launch it, and then we can pop it out. And you know, in my day-to-day life, I come across, you know, many people from many organizations, and I'm more than happy to sort of spread the word and you know, and once it's launched and once you've got that concept clear in your mind as to how you want it to manifest itself, then let us know, and yeah, we'll 100% behind you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, and I genuinely am grateful for you allowing me on the show tonight.
Oh, it's been an honor. I know you
pleasure.
You said, you know, it's the pleasure really is all ours. I genuinely mean it. You know, when Lindsay messaged me and we said that we were going to rearrange and this was going to be our first episode that we were going to be recording in 2025, I couldn't be happier about that. You know, in terms of kicking it back off again, you know, it made a lot more sense. We were shoehorning you in over the Christmas period to record it then. And then it would have dropped in January. It would have been recorded mid-December. To record it as the first one back for us, like I say, we're all a little bit rusty, but it's been, yeah, I don't think we could have timed it any better. I think it's worked out perfectly.
Yeah, 100%.
And Gaz, just for you, just to prove I'm not, you know, always the consummate wordsmith, I've got one here that I've just pulled out. Yeah. And it says on one side, Udi, because this was December 23. Into January 24. So, because I always keep the back end of a year to start filling the jar for the next year. So this is probably one of the last gratitudes I wrote in 2023. I got an Udi as a Christmas present that year. So on the one side it says Udi, arrow, awesome, arrow, grateful. And then on the other side, I've actually done the 5 whys around that.
Oh, okay.
And my answer to that came back with warm, safe, loved, grateful.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Amazing.
That's good though, that you can use that. And it's something I'm going to use. I might even use it as well. So I've got a couple of meetings booked in tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of why questions asked.
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, it's, you know, Steve's obviously mentioned it tonight, but and I joke that, you know, the kids that we have in my school, you know, literally, like, there's one in particular. But why? But you said that. But why? And literally, she'll go and go and go and go. And you know, you said there's 5 whys. I think with this young person, I think it's like 7 or 8 whys. You know, and literally she doesn't. and it's somebody's like, no, come on, you really need to like get out of my office now and go to class, sort of thing. But you know, it literally is. But what a fantastic thing that makes you appreciate even more, I suppose, as to why it is that you're grateful for those things. And you know, and I said it, you know, I'm very, very grateful for Adam's friendship over the years and stuff. But then by you saying why, it's like it genuinely makes you think about what are the things that you're grateful for and why is that important to you. So phenomenal concept. And
that 5 whys technique is the thing that absolutely takes something extrinsic and then drives it into what the intrinsic feeling is that the gratitude is built on.
Yeah. And that's incredible, isn't it? To make you think about that.
Indeed. Before we let you go, then, go on, guys. I've seen the one you just drawn out. Did you want to share that one with us?
Well, I did just pull one out that said the Bears beat the Packers, and that was one for over the weekend. And obviously, I'm a massive Chicago Bears fan. I'm actually wearing a Chicago Bears t-shirt, and I knew that I put that in the jar, so I was really in the hope that actually was pulled out of the jar because I thought I can wear it. And we haven't beaten the Packers for so many years. And to actually this season, without boring anybody with NFL chat, we won on a field goal, and this year we found ridiculously crazy ways to lose games. So it was actually really good to end on a win. And we're not in the playoffs or anything, but I'm grateful for that win because it's something that we can build on for next year. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that will provide the Bears for next year moving forward. So that was one just I wanted to finish on, and genuinely I pulled it out of the jar. So brilliant.
There's one I just want to finish on as well because I pulled it out. And it was a poignant one in my life. So we've covered off a little bit about how my American family and how I tracked them down. But this is one from the 7th of September of this year. I'm grateful for Bo, Kevin, Ron, Mike, and Tristan's friendship. I was hammered when I wrote this. I should have had. So I had a couple of days in Texas, and I was only there literally for a few days, but they made me feel like I belong there. You know what I mean? We'd been out for breakfast to a place that serves beer from 6 in the morning. We'd had a couple of beers with our breakfast, and we sat around laughing. And I am grateful for that day because if I ever feel down, I can think back to that day, and that was special. You know what I mean? We were 5 blokes in our 50s who left there with tears rolling down our cheeks, talking about some of the stupidest, most childish stuff you could ever imagine. But it was absolutely fantastic, and I felt like I belonged there. To get on the plane and go home a couple of days later was pretty grim, and I had to keep that thought in my mind that I was grateful to have had that experience and to been there to experience all that time with them. Was really, really important to remember while I was sat on that plane, miserable about coming home. I should say to my wife and kids, I was delighted to see you. I could be in trouble after this episode. But no, thank you very much for this. Thank you very much for the concept. Yes, 100%. Whenever you want to come back, whenever you want to talk us through what you're up to with us, just let us know. You're welcome back anytime. We will make time in our schedule for you. If we have our Tuesdays planned up in advance, which we tend to, then we'll do it another day, and we'll do an
additional one. Yeah, we'll do an extra one.
100%.
Yeah.
And like
thank you, thank you so much. Thank you.
No, I genuinely mean it. It's been wonderful. And like Gaz says, the people that we've met through this podcast is the reason why we keep doing it, and we're grateful for it. And you yourself, like you say, this is the 4th time we've had you back on. Like you say, you've pitched your next 6 episodes at least. So, and I look forward to each and every one of them because it is an absolute delight. There's certain ones, when you look at and we haven't booked in, you don't know anything about them. So there's that little bit of trepidation. Will we get through the hour? Will we run out of things to say? You're never 100% sure. But then there's episodes like this where my notes, as guys can see, are absolutely minimal because I know we can just sit and have a conversation, and that to me is really important.
And you only have to look at, as I said, sometimes you look and you think, crikey, are we going to fill an hour? And you just have to look at the time. We're now 1 hour 14 minutes, and it feels like it's just flown by, and it feels like we could probably talk for another hour about what So unfortunately, we do have to wrap it up. It has been an absolute pleasure. Steve, if you just want to give us your sort of final thought and then just wrap it up for our listeners.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna quote a brilliant TV program on Apple TV called Ted Lasso. And with regards to the young person that you talked about who is asking about 50 whys, not 5.
Yeah.
One of the key messages from Ted Lasso is be curious, not judgmental.
100%.
And one of the things that I've learned about gratitude is it's actually made me look beyond the surface. And it's one of the things it has ignited in me is a real genuine curiosity in how things work and how I process the world. So all I'd say is for January and for the rest of the year, whenever you're listening to this podcast, stop trying to get stuff, start being grateful for stuff, and be curious about what you're grateful for, and you'll probably find you get the stuff anyway.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. And I know. Sorry, guys, I'm going to add a couple more minutes on now. But there was a little bit. I know you sort of said about the things you see, and I watch a lot of reels on Instagram, mainly ones that Andy sends to me while he's on the toilet. We won't go into that. But then I've seen a few. I've seen a few other ones as well. And there's one where it's an American teacher, and she wrote all the kids' names on a balloon. You probably see it. And then she says to the kids, "Go find the balloon." They chase around, chasing forever. Nobody can find their balloons. But then she says, "Do it this way: go and grab a balloon with somebody else's name on it and take it to them." And that is about the search for happiness. That if you're searching for your own happiness, you're never going to find it. However, if you search about when you want to make other people happy, find their happiness and share it with them, you're going to make everybody happy, and we're all going to be happy along the way. And I think that works a little bit with gratitude as well. I digressed a little bit from the point there, but I think an hour and a quarter, guys. We'll let you get off. I know he's got an early start in the morning. It's snowy weather, and he wants to get to Bobby's and have his show off by having another good night's sleep.
I know, yeah, I know. Another good night's sleep is something that I'm genuinely looking forward to, and I'll wake up in the morning. I'll be very, very grateful if that happens. So, look again. My sort of final thought. Massively appreciative, Steve, of your time. It's flown by, an hour and 17 minutes in. Slightly longer episode than we would normally do, but I make absolute no apologies for that. So thanks very much to all you listeners out there, and we'll look forward to next time where we will be talking about some